All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hope you're having a great Monday. Jonny Torres here for the Yard Sign. We're getting ready to kick off another show, and I'm excited because we've got a full cast today. We got plenty to talk about, and Cassie's back. So it's going to be a great show. Thank you so much for tuning in as you usually do. Again, make sure to follow us on Facebook.com/The Yard Sign. You can also find The Yard Sign on YouTube and Twitter. And then, of course, make sure to support the Tampa Bay Young Republicans at Facebook.com/TBYRS. And you can also find the Tampa Bay Young Republicans on just about every other social media platform as well. So let's go ahead and keep this train moving along as we switch over to today's cast. We've got, as I mentioned, a full cast for today. Got Anibal in the left chair. We've got Cassie playing center chair. Hello, hello. And sexy man Jake Hoffman. How you doing?
I think we're doing good. I think we had a great weekend.
That needs to be his tag.
I know. Normally, I can't even get through the introduction without some interruption.
We had a couple comments, but no, I do want to start off by saying that if you joined us this weekend for the quarterly, the Florida Federation of Young Republicans quarterly that we hosted in Tampa this weekend, you had a great time.
Yes.
We had at least probably 75 people or so throughout the weekend stop by. We had a great gala dinner. I want to take time real quick and just thank the sponsors, people that donated to us this weekend so we could put on an amazing event for young Republicans across the entire state of Florida. I want to thank, first off, the TBYR sponsored, the Florida Federation of Young Republicans sponsored. We had the Patriots for Trump sponsor it. We had ROI
Real estate. And we had the I'm going to say with the pack, the PCYR's pack, the PCYR pack, and the
YNF. Yeah, YAF pack. Sorry. I have a graphic for you guys as well. So thank you guys if you sponsored. And the Barrymore Hotel.
Yes.
Absolutely. You guys were fantastic hosts. If you haven't been back to the Barrymore yet, then you need to do it. It's been renovated, and the food was amazing. Everyone had a fantastic time with that.
Food was phenomenal. I was actually very surprised. We were worried, rubber chicken, things like those were the comments we were hearing ahead of time.
Oh, yeah,
and then
rubber chicken and mushroom sauce.
I know, and then when everyone left, they're packing on the potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
And adding more food in the beef Wellingtons. I definitely broke my diet.
Well, you know what's interesting is that ever since the Young Republicans moved their meetings there, they of course renovated that whole lobby area, and I guess they redid their whole kitchen setup because even the food that you can get there throughout the week is fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. So today, then we'll move on. Last announcement for geez, Johnny's coming on my phone right now.
That's what she said.
So the other announcement, though, is that if you did donate to us this weekend for our event, we are going to be all the proceeds. We didn't actually profit off of that. That is going to go straight to the Grammatica Family Kickball Tournament that we're going to be participating in this weekend at MacDill Air Force Base. Disabled veterans getting custom homes built. They have a fantastic philanthropy that they're going to be doing this weekend on Saturday, and you can still donate to us, and we're going to be giving all those proceeds to the Grammatica Family Foundation. They're doing great work over there. So after that, all my plugs are done. So Johnny, you can lead us into today's topics.
And then whatever's left over goes into the Young Republican Legal Fund.
Basically.
All right, so let's get things underway. Again, lots to talk about. Of course, the big news being, and we're going to start off with the big story: Ukraine, impeachment, Trump. It's obviously right now. My opinion is there's going to be damage done on both sides. Is there enough to take down the president? I don't think so. You guys?
Neil, we did talk about this a little bit last week, but things have changed.
So at the beginning of last week, we were being informed about the whistleblower. We were being informed about there was a call. We were getting all this information, and people started going a little crazy about what was the potential on the call, what was the potential of the whistleblower, and then things were leaking slowly out of what was going to happen. So the narrative was changing day by day, almost from the newspapers, and then them having to do retractions, and then having to do editorial board. So by the time Friday, when we had 75, 80 Republicans in a room, it was like, this has just gone ridiculous. I don't know how much more time we want to focus on something that may or may not have happened. I think the beauty of it was, and this was before Nancy Pelosi even made her recommendation for impeachment, was that they already had 200 Democrats saying they're going to impeach, and then fill in the blank later of the paperwork of what he was going to get impeached for.
Yeah. She started that morning saying, we don't have any evidence. We can't call for impeachment yet. We need to call for an investigation. That's not on the air, of course, and no one will ever show you that. But that happened early that morning. And the Democrats gave her so much pressure and so much crap for not just going straight to impeachment. And you can see how exhausted she is. And she's the one who said from day one that we don't need to be so divisive. It's almost like I feel like deep down, she might actually be like a tiny bit more normal because she hasn't done this sooner and gone for it sooner because she knows that there's no evidence.
Well, that's the thing, is she's been holding this talk off for some time. And, merely because of that, I think she knows full and well that they don't have enough to get the president on.
So up until August 2019, in order to be a whistleblower, you had to be a direct witness. In August 2019, they changed that standard that you could report through hearsay. Guess when the whistleblower came forward? August of 2019. It's just like there's so many holes like this in this whole story that are so blatant. It's insane. It's just, I heard someone say today on the radio, we shouldn't even be calling it impeachment. They're not following the protocol that you actually follow for impeachment. It's just, let's make up as much as we can because we're so angry that he won.
And that's where it's going to come into play of just the procedure of this. Is like, technically, we're still not even in the path of impeachment. We're still in the review process of it getting out of committee to be able to go forward. And even now, there's no vote. No vote hasn't been called on yet. And that was something that we were all expecting to happen this weekend, was a call for impeachment, the vote, which of course we knew wasn't going to happen. But I want to say some quick history about that. Was like, technically there's only been 2 presidents impeached since the creation of the country, which was Andrew Jackson in 1868 and then Bill Clinton in 1998. And again, the ramifications and the blowback and what happened to the country when those 2 things occurred are very different. So we all saw what happened with Bill Clinton. He still won, and so I don't know what they are expecting this to be, but as we were talking about earlier, it's almost like they are so afraid that he will win in 2020. They're looking for any reason to get him out beforehand.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really bad for the country. Not like we weren't divided already, but at this point now, it's like it's going to really push people onto one side or the other. And I think Trump just tweeted out today, which is not helping at all. By the way, this is the bad Trump side of things. But tweeting out about how like it's going to cause a civil war. Like, I think those were even some of the words that he used.
He did use the word civil war, yeah.
And when, first off, president uses those words in relation to, because people are going to be like fighting for him to continue being president. I do have a problem with that. But I think that there's obviously some truth to that, because it's like that is what's going to end up happening, especially if you have one side basically calling for it. But that's already what you're seeing in this country. And we are getting dangerously close to extreme divisiveness when we don't really need there to be, because again, we're doing this off of hearsay and anger at somebody being elected instead of just following due process.
But you just made the points of why people are so upset, and why it's probably going to get to that point. They're not following due process. This is all hearsay, and they've been fighting him for 2 years now. It went from colluding with the Russians to then obstruction with the Russians, and then even this impeachment conversation in 1 week has changed 3 times. In the beginning, it was the quid pro quo and him telling them, like, acting like a mob boss, asking for a commentary. Then you get the transcripts and it says nothing like that. And then they switch over to, well, you're inviting a foreign country to meddle with our elections, which has happened multiple times. And even to that point, it doesn't make any sense. And then the third point now is talking about the cover up, which doesn't make any sense either, because they gave the transcripts without a subpoena or being told proactively. And that's the thing. That's enraging 80 million people. That's enraging more than half of the country, that you're not even willing to give us a legitimate reason why he should be impeached. You're just trying to find something to throw on the wall and it stick. And that's going to enrage the rest of the country. I understand that we shouldn't be talking about civil war. I don't think we're going to get to that point. But I do completely understand why there's a large portion of the population so enraged that it's going to get to that point. What do? You're going to try to get him out and then Mike Pence out, and then you're going to throw off the election that happened in 2018 or 16, I'm sorry. That's what enrages the population.
Yeah.
When you try to get rid of a democratically elected president.
And why is no one on TV, other than stations that we might watch, talking about Biden and everything that is the reason why Trump asked the question? They asked Warren and Kamala Harris, would you ever employ your son if you were the vice president with a foreign oil company? And they both immediately said no, and then it clicked. You could see it in both interviews. It clicked in their head what they had been asked and backtracked. Because obviously what Biden has done and the comments he made where he was like, oh, I told him I'd hold $6 million or whatever that comment was. Yes. Like beating his chest about it. So even if, let's just pretend, let's give it to Trump that maybe he was doing something wrong by asking, then let's hold both sides accountable equally when they do things that are so corrupt. And what's so infuriating is that that's not what happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, this goes back to last week's episode when we were kind of going over how there's a lot of bad going on here, on both sides, but where the person that's definitely hurt the most in all of this is Joe Biden because it's there. I mean, again, Trump's showed the transcripts. You can make the argument depending on how you read those, depending on how you feel about Trump going into reading those or listening to those. You've made up your opinion whether or not you think that there was something ill will during that conversation.
But it's not, and sorry for cutting you off, but it's not as bad as video of your henchman raiding the DNC and then you trying to cover it, nor is it bad of a dress with a stain on it. Like that's the level of impeachment.
As bad as,
but that's the thing. But that's the level of where impeachment goes to.
Yeah.
This is nowhere near that level. And again, that's where the bar has to. Where is the bar? Where there was no verbiage on the. I mean, I had to read it today. Yeah. The transcripts of the Ukrainian call. Yeah. There was no quick. He wasn't even the one that brought it up.
So I followed like 4 liberal news stories trying to find the transcript, and every time I clicked on read the transcript here, it took me in a circle, and it made me realize.
Well, I can tell you who did post it. DC Drano. He posted the full transcript. Who is a fantastic speaker, by the way, this weekend.
Actually read it because there's nothing in it to see.
Yeah, there's a couple lines. Again, Trump. If you haven't heard him talk, he kind of talks in vague, broad statements. So again, I think it's easily interpreted either way. And if you hate the guy, then you're going to interpret it that he was doing something wrong. If you love him, you're going to defend him. And I don't think that you're going to gather much. But that's the whole point, is that there's not that much to gather from the transcripts. So impeachment, again, I don't think it's going to work out very well for Democrats.
But you do get some glimpse of what what Trump was asking for from the transcripts, and it was made very well from some of the anchors on. It was an anchor on Sunday that was like, look, when you read the data or the back and forth dialogue, he's not asking for future election information for future election meddling for foreign countries. He's asking for past election foreign meddling because he's talking about CrowdStrike, which was in 2016. He's asking for things that happened in the past. He's not asking for things in the future. And then 2 pages later, Giuliani's brought up, and then he makes a comment about, well, we were having trials and about to prosecute the oil company that Joe Biden's son was working at, and then Joe Biden gets put into the mix, and you're like, this is insane. You would have thought he was shaking them down.
Yeah. So this is a couple points on that. Is the first one, again, you're talking about somebody who did do something wrong. There's absolutely a paper trail to it in Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, his son. But the one part about all this story that I don't like, even as a Republican, is even as somebody that supports a lot of policies that the president has implemented since he's been president, I don't like the fact that his personal lawyer is involved when he's not appointed to a public position. And he should not be involved in going over and doing diplomatic anything. as a personal lawyer. I mean, you should be employed by the state. If you want to make him Secretary of State or something, he's having these conversations, fine. Then he's subject to the same rules that we are. But that's something that bothered me a little bit when I was going through all of this stuff.
I have to agree with that, but I like the idea that, and he was mentioning, Giuliani was mentioning that he was willing to go up to Congress to give a deposition and everything else, and then he was subpoenaed later on. Mm-hmm. I do have an issue with that also. And again, I remember last week we all were on the table. We're like, if there is a quid pro quo, then yes, we completely agree that is an impeachable offense and everything else. There is no recollection of a quid pro quo request. There is no requesting involvement from a foreign country, and there's no cover up. And this is the thing. You're going to tell me the Democrats are going to now figure this is going to be the hill they die on? For the next 4 months until 2020, we're going to be talking about this again after 2 years of collusion and whatever about the Russians.
Well, they were begging for that information 2 or 4 months ago with Mueller. They want info on Russia. And now that they're mad that Trump asked for info on Russia. I mean, it's like, I don't understand.
Well, that's exactly the point. If it wasn't this, it's going to be that. And then when it's not this, it's going to be something else. And that's the playbook, because they want to keep people amped up. They want to keep them angry. They want to keep them, try to distract from the fact that the economy is doing well, trying to distract from the fact that overall the country's in a good place, because they know that it's already hard enough to beat an incumbent president when everything's kind of going in his favor. I mean, he's nearly untouchable.
Can we talk for just a second about how great things are right now, though? I mean, despite the rhetoric that you might hear and then people's opinions on what's going on politically, I mean, our economy's booming. I mean, everybody I know and talk to, their businesses are doing fantastic. Houses are selling. The real estate market's booming. People have jobs. I mean, minorities have jobs. I mean, we are living in a great time if you point your attention in the right direction. It's when you start looking at, again, you start paying too much attention to politics, really.
Economy is doing great. I believe it was 2% last quarter that was increased. Mortgages rates are as the lowest they've been for a while now. I know that unemployment is at rock levels. I think, and this is going to your point, that if you cannot hit him on the economy, you cannot hit him on policies, you can't hit him on the things he's achieved, then you have to hit him on his character. And again, which is easy. But again, this is the difference between him and other politicians, that we've always known his character. We've always known he's that New York kind of real estate guy that he's going to try to get things done, and they're going to fire people when they need to get fired. He never lied to me about cheating on his wife like other politicians do. He's never lied to us about his business dealings. He never lied to us about that.
I love how he doesn't read the teleprompter either. He'll read like 2 sentences and then he'll make a random side comment, and read 3 sentences and make a random side comment. But that tells me what he's reading, he actually does and thinks about and knows. And he's not just hanging out by himself and then reading what someone else wrote for him. It shows ownership.
I know a lot of Republicans and independents don't like the idea when he does a Twitter and everything else. I get it.
I
get it. But I'm on the fence if I love it.
I love it.
I've said this before on the podcast a previous time, is that if the next president stopped tweeting about what's going on, I would be like, tell me what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, give me more insight, because we live in 2019 now. Like, I want my president to tweet. I want my president to go live in the Oval Office and tell me what's happening and what he's thinking. I mean, I think that's good. I know that, again, you have
he's raised the bar from a communication standpoint, technically. From the instance that nobody has ever communicated directly with the American people like he has. They wanted to make Obama the first social media president, and then halfway through his term, I think it was, we come to find out that he never even touched his Twitter account, that it was all staff run, which wasn't a big surprise for those of us who do that sort of thing for a living, but of course everybody thinks that he puts out this summer playlist with all his favorite records, and then he's putting, all this stuff out on Twitter, and he's not doing any of that.
And it's
crafted. Got staff to handle all that.
And it's crafted, and you don't want to see that. So that's my point to the whole Twitter thing, is that I'm okay with it. Like, I like it. I know that, there's older people that are going to, not like it, and they're going to...
It's older and young people. There's some people that don't want to see this much of the president, or they don't want to hear this much of their government. I understand those arguments, that you want to be just left alone. You don't want his tweets to be on the front page of every single conversation. But this is again, if the Democrats weren't trying to get him out of office every single day and him having to feel like he needs to defend himself, then I would think we would see a rhetoric coming out. But it's every day now that both sides are causing this problem.
The impeachment article itself says in it, if he doesn't get impeached, he will get reelected.
Right.
What does that have to do with trying to impeach him? It's
it
like
should be on
putting
the
right
merit
in
of
there.
That's their goal.
That is
That's
their goal.
That's
It's
the whole
written
reason
in there.
why
They're
this
giving
time.
away that that's the objective. It's written right in there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and Nancy's on record as saying it herself. And the truth of the matter is that the reason they didn't try to impeach him before now is because right now all you need is the threat of impeachment. You need the procedure to start. You need to get the news stations all rallied around, these impeachment proceedings, because whether or not he's guilty, right, it's going to have an effect on the people when they go to the polls. Because this isn't going to be sorted out before the election. And that's what they're counting on. They're counting on this dragging out, past the election, where it can influence the election regardless of the outcome. Now, they're going to lose a ton of credibility in the process if this doesn't go their way, which I believe is the way it's going to go.
Very little credibility
But
left.
what they're really trying to do is to influence the election. And actually, they've been almost transparent about that.
Yeah.
But we're going to have the same results in 2000, like we had in 2018 with the whole Supreme Court situation, where you're convicting someone without due process and you're pushing that. And that brought a lot of people out to vote. I truly believe that's why Florida went the way it did, was those additional votes.
And impeachment is due process. That's the point of it, right? So, that's why it's
it gets crazy.
It's gonna get crazy, but it's like if they go through the whole process and then they find him, guilty, not guilty, whatever you want to call it. Again, you can get impeached for anything if they don't like what you're doing.
If it wasn't during an election year, I would think it might be more possible that he might get impeached with the state of the Senate at the moment. But during an election cycle, no Senate Republican is going
they
to
have to all go on record now, which is
Yes.
funny because I've heard Democrats talking about how now all the Republicans have to go on record and say whether or not that they believe that he should be impeached,
that's fine.
Which is not as good for our side of the aisle, because it's going to, if people do come out and say that, if they take sides on one side or the other, it's going to have a little bit more party infighting than already exists.
But this has always been party infighting. The reason why the Democrats, again, since the beginning of the election, 100 Democrats have been asking for his impeachment for the last 2 years. Now, when this happened at the start of September, you had 200 Democrats saying, before there was even evidence that they wanted to impeach him. So now you have 200 Democrats in the House wanting to get him impeached. Once they vote and they start that walk down procedures for impeachment, now you have to see if you can wrangle 20 Republicans to vote for him in the Senate. And then you think you have the Supreme Court, whoever's chairing the Supreme Court at that moment is then in charge of the entire process in regards to the trial. And then every senator is a juror. So now you have 100 jurors. They have to have a 2/3 majority, which is not going to happen. So they're wasting all this time and effort. And you know who doesn't get any time and effort? The candidates on the Democrat side. We're going to be talking nothing Trump for the next year.
But that's what they want. I mean, if you listen to them talk through a debate, I mean, you don't want the attention on their policies.
Oh my gosh. I have not been able to soberly watch any of those debates, and it has been frustrating because we're out of white wine. So it's rough.
All right.
It's
All right.
All right,
Good segue.
We should have put the Democrat primary on the agenda for today, but we didn't. But I do.
Is there another one coming?
I do got to say, and we're gonna have to do it. No, I mean the primary in general.
Yeah.
But the rumor that I do love right now, and we'll have to save this for next week's show, is that Hillary is considering jumping in.
But don't do that. We're not giving that credence.
Show the people.
It is a reputable source. I will look it up right now.
I would love.
It's first off, it's not a reputable source.
It is a reputable.
This is an email that got passed around from your uncle or your something like that. That they're like, Hillary's going to get in, and I say that because that's what happened to me a couple days ago. I got this email.
Would love to see her run again.
It's not happening.
Pass out because of exhaustion because she could barely deal with it before. It would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. I don't.
Let's
the Republican women will go crazy.
I'm not talking about it. Let's move on.
You're supposed to do that when we're not on camera.
I'm ready.
All right. So what are we going to move right into the other
Greta.
big story of this event?
Yeah. Next story. All right, here we go. So, of course, big news coming out of the UN. by a young lady named Greta Thunberg. I've personally been
Very angry.
Been a angry young lady, but that's okay.
At that age,
she's got
they're all
fire.
angry.
I can appreciate that. Look, I mean, my position on this, before we all kind of get into it, has been everybody kind of noticed right away that there was something quite not right about this performance at the UN, right? Now we're coming to find out she's obviously been very active in climate change for some time. There's some question as to whether or not she's being coached. I think anyhow. So and where are the parents in all this, right? Because while she's been very visible, hell, she even got Arnold Schwarzenegger to give her a Tesla, so she could drive around the United States. To me, given her condition, she's admittedly said that she's been diagnosed with Asperger's. Given the visibility of being a politically engaged, globally engaged activist, to me that amounts to borderline child abuse. I think this young lady is being taken advantage of, and she's going to be making headlines for a long time. What do you guys think?
I don't need another white person telling me what I should and should not be doing. I'm sorry. I truly believe it is child abuse. I completely agree. It's child abuse, but it's also white privilege. The world is coming to an end in 12 years again. This is absolutely ridiculous happening.
So you scared Cassie off.
And on that note,
We have lost.
So no. This is what I want to say.
Looks horrible.
This is. So this is what I wanted to say. This is what I want to say about
looks
this.
worse.
This is what I want to say. We're all young people that are involved politically. I don't have any problem with kids getting involved with politics. I am happy that people are getting involved with politics younger and younger. I am totally okay with somebody coming out and going to the UN and fighting for a cause that they believe in. Now, and I also think it's now fair for another side to criticize her. But my problem with that is the conversation that's happened over the past week or so has been so focused on all of the things that Johnny's been talking about. It's been focused on where her parents and what is this kid doing? I don't listen to a kid talk and this. And I mean, we're not talking about the actual issue at hand here, which is like climate change, environmentalism, those type of things. And I've said this on the podcast before too, is that I'm really into being pragmatic and trying to solve problems, which isn't a lot of fun to talk about on the podcast, but actually going and digging at the real issue here. And the real issue is climate change. The real issue is pollution and things like that. So I think that when we spend a week talking about this girl and her, whatever her personal situation is, it takes away from the bigger conversation here that needs to be taking place. And for me, I'm a Republican that totally believes in environmentalism and conservation and things like that. I mean, there are great free market solutions out there to climate change that I would love to spend an hour talking about on another podcast maybe in the future. And we could be doing that, but instead of doing that, we're talking about, girl, I don't like diverting my attention over that way when I don't think it's really the bigger issue here.
It also gets frustrating for someone that's been attending conferences on a yearly basis to talk about and becoming energy independent and using less fossil fuels and renewable energy. It frustrates me because of the blatant disrespect that the left is trying to push, that Republicans don't believe in conservatism or conservation and don't believe in clean energy. And that's not true at all. And I feel that that's something that's not talked about. Are we ever going to sign the I think the Paris Accord? I don't think we should at all, because it puts us in such a detrimental to our economy.
And we can debate signing different treaties and different things because they put us in different places.
I don't think the U.S. should sign any kind of treaty whatsoever, because we are doing more independently to solve those problems and to make sure that our air is good and that our water is fine and that our land is being conserved, conservation, and that our energy. I think this is the thing. And it's just, again, if we
always will, because we have the resources and the technology.
But if we have the discussion of where the person's coming from, I'm not environmentalist whatsoever, but I also don't want to pay that much for my electricity. I want to make sure that my air is good and everything is well, and that where I'm getting my resources from are protecting and not damaging the country, which is why I don't buy certain things.
I mean, so for me, like, I mean, like, I personally, like, there are a few things I want my government to do. You know, like, I'm pretty libertarian about most things, but when it comes to like public health, that's what I want them to do. I want them to make sure that my rivers are clean. I want them to make sure that my water isn't polluted. I want to make sure that the stuff that they're putting in to our food isn't killing us. You know, things like that. And so I think that we can have a broader conversation about good policy that's environmentally conscious. And again, we had the American Act. It's the AAC. They're a conservation, free market Republican conservation group that's come out and spoke about a lot of their policies that they're pushing for. And I think that if you go look them up if you want some homework for today and see what they're doing right now. But there are a lot of good policies that can come out of being environmentally conscious. I don't think we need to be, again, putting ourselves at a disadvantage in different places, and but I also don't think we should be destroying our environment at the same time. And I don't think that I don't think you have to be liberal and on the left to believe in environmentalism and not still believe in a lot of free market and Republican ideals. And it frustrates me because we've let the left own that piece for so long, and we should be taking it back. But instead of us taking it back, we're fighting over a 16-year-old girl.
But all the independent companies that do things to help the environment really is an example of how capitalism, which is a Republican principle, does help the environment.
I agree.
Like, who's the Tesla guy? Why am I blanking?
Elon Musk.
Well,
Community is the perfect example.
I'm a huge.
It's not publicly funded.
Yeah, well, I think what Elon Musk is doing is great. I mean, I'm glad that he's able to put a car out that does all of this amazing things at the same time. But I mean, we have a lot of things in place that are holding old, dirty energies in place. That's not a free market solution. I mean, like, we subsidize oil still. So I mean, like, this isn't a conversation about there's not real capitalism. It's been very, very hard for Elon Musk to try and like disrupt and innovate in that space because we have all of this BS that's going on in the oil industry and everything like that. So I'm all for. I'm not saying trying to push solar down people's throats or wind or something like that. But I mean, if you let the free market decide on like what's going to be the solution to that, and then you also put some preventative measures from people. Again, look at Cleveland's river was on fire when we let things go a little too insane on the on dumping and things like that. So I mean, like, we have to have safeguards in place. Like, the EPA was a Republican I'm blanking on the word
Department.
right now. Department. And it's like there is good that they should be able to do, but you obviously cannot overdo it as well. So it's finding a good balance, but at the same time,
but this is the thing, and
compared to what we put into the environment, like, you can't.
No,
it's a
that's
fraction.
the thing,
and that's
why is Greta not yelling at China and India?
She should be yelling at them.
Well, and that was going to be my
White
question:
privilege.
is it self-imposed like guilt as a national superpower, international superpower, that we feel that her anger was directed at us, or because she was addressing the UN as a whole, that she was truly addressing the entire world, regardless of the nasty look she gave the president. Do you guys feel that she was addressing the UN as a whole, or was her anger directed at the United States?
Who knows?
Well, I
she
think
wasn't clear.
Well,
Does she even know?
Well, the one thing I'll say is that she was addressing the UN at least.
Yeah.
It wasn't like she came. I mean, she'll probably end up in front of Congress, but it's not like she was addressing Congress. She's addressing the UN, so it is pointed at the entire world. That's one thing. Whether they air it in China, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's
But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you guys. I mean, we should be doing things that pressure other countries into making changes. But at the same time, it's hard because they're not going to listen to us. They want.
Yeah, but you even look at things, and you talked about dirty energy technology, right? The fact that the United States is now energy independent, that we don't have to import as much fossil fuel as we used to, if at all, right? When we're talking about natural gas, we're talking about our own oil. Okay, that alone has an exponential impact on improving carbon emissions or in improving the environment in general, because now you're not shipping all of that stuff from around the world here to the United States. So you by its very nature, you're again reducing the amount of carbon emissions because you don't have all these shipping vessels that are traveling the world trying to bring all this foreign energy into the country.
We'll let you stick with that one. Okay. I'm not going to fight you on the economic impacts of the U.S. becoming oil independent and energy independent. I will say though, allowing the free market to run as much as it did. Again, we have to be very careful when we say those words because Florida has a 30%. You get a 30% income tax reduction when you use solar panels, and so like that's a thing.
But even the state legislature.
What's the corn stuff that we use? Ethanol is horribly subsidized.
Yeah, but
It's absolutely ridiculous subsidized.
That's what the problem is, though. Is that right? It's like
and they do that just so they can get votes in Iowa. I mean, let's be literally honest in those conversations.
And that's the whole point, though. Is that, I mean, you can talk if you go and actually do some deep research on this and talk to people who are very heavily invested into the environment, whether it's their business or whatever it may be. The most liberal person will tell you that there's still a lot of really bad policies in place because again we're subsidizing all these different things and it's causing a lot of the problems that we see. I mean, like there's no reason for us to not be able to innovate in so many other different ways and become even more so energy independent in the cleanest ways possible. Because I think that's eventually what would win out. But when you hold down oil prices, well, why would anybody innovate if gas is $2 a gallon?
Yeah, but are you saying that we should allow for the oil to fluctuate as dramatically?
Yeah.
Well, that only hurts lower and middle income individuals.
Well, if you have, you can't just do it in a. It's impossible to do it in a vacuum at this point because of all the other policies that are out there. But there can be good legislation crafted that would kind of reverse what we've been doing for the past. I don't know how long we've been doing it.
I think allowing for something to rise and fluctuate as much as it has with which 92% of the country is using, which would destabilize the economies
for a little bit.
No, it would destabilize a lot of the economy. Again, there's if anything, what's happening is that we tax gas to begin with. Some states tax it more than some states don't tax it.
That's a whole other conversation too.
But that's how government influences the prices of gas. I mean, that's one way right there. And some states want to tax it more, so then it reduces the popularity of using gas.
But taxing it isn't. Taxing is never the right answer. That's not.
But yet you want to use a way to influence to increase gas prices.
No, I want to let the free market do its job.
I think
that why taxing and subsidizing. I mean, that's us putting our hand into that market, and so there's no reason for any of that. And I mean, so it's one of my I pretty deeply held beliefs that I think that's really how we're messing up a lot of things in this country, which goes back to the environment. And again, I just want smart policy. I want smart policy that balances between economic growth and environmentalism. And there's a few things that I think we can do to make this place a healthier, cleaner state and country. So,
okay.
Next topic.
Well, we certainly didn't spend as much time on that one as I thought we would.
I think it's because not to talk about it more, but I think it was more of a we took a left. Actually, John, if you want to talk about it real quick.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, again, we'll see. I mean, I think, her rise to celebrity as an activist, I think, is just getting started. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, she's already in the country. She's very visible in regards to, the events, the type of people that she's surrounding herself with. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not the messaging continues along that path. Again, I mean, I don't know if it's just being self-conscious or if, a lot of that was directed at the United States or if, maybe, it was just directed at the world in general. Regardless, again, while I think it's awesome and I wish I would have gotten involved in politics at a much younger age, I think to be on a global stage like that, with the pressures, the scrutiny, the criticism that comes along with that isn't healthy, for a teenager. I mean, it's tough enough being a teenager as it is. So
I mean, it's like being a child actor.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
she kind of is at the moment.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of speculation about that because she's been on documentaries, and and again, documentaries can obviously blur the line, between acting and actually commentating on certain issues. But we'll see. I mean, it's people obviously feel strongly, on both sides, be it the agenda or being the fact that they're kind of using this young lady as a messenger for the cause. And again, I'm not knocking her for what she's up there arguing for. I just don't know that she's the right messenger, for that agenda.
And I think that not the right messenger is a fair critique over the situation. It's I always just think that like I have such a hard time like diverting my attention from the real issue to paying attention to people that go and do a speech or something like that. Not that it's wrong, not that it's it gives something for us to talk about today, but it's just not I have a hard time spending too long on it.
I do too. I think just focusing on her and that circus that was created around her is not productive for the whole conversation. We should be talking about policies we want to change.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. If she used that platform to talk about certain policies that could be changing or policies that are working and that we need to make either national programs or international programs, she would have got more people on her side. Instead, whoever dictated what she needed to say is using the fear and the threat of cities being wiped out because of global warming and everything else. And that's not working in the American people. Again, as Americans, do you want to be told like, hey, let's figure out a way to fix something, or you have to stop doing this? Well, no, don't tell me what to do in my own house.
That's
what things
great segue, Anibal, because
Yes.
that's exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah. Well, before we jump into the next topic, I did want to go over to, again, our Facebook comment feed. Hector, been real active. What's up, Hector? He's chiming in with Texas is ahead of their green energy. They deregulated the electricity market, allowing the consumers to choose where their power comes from, whether that source is green or not. What's up to Joe Wicker, who's been on the show before, and talking about whether or not Greta Thunberg's anger or her message is directly aimed at us. He says she's not addressing the Chinese People's Assembly. Xi Jinping wouldn't tolerate that. Neither would Putin. And they're right. She right after that speech, what did she decide to do? Go out to California. She's now, going to different parts of the United States. There are very few countries that would allow her to do that, following how critical she's been.
I mean, that's why America's America, right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't be like aspiring to run the same way Putin and the Chinese are. So I'm happy that she's able to say what she wants to say and then travel around this country pretty freely, especially in a Tesla. So
I think that was provided for her. Again, that's
a different part. But
again, I think. I used to love the UN. I don't love it anymore.
I'm not. Do you not get me started on the anti-Semitic?
Oh my gosh!
UN.
How do you have Iran chairing the women's suffrage committee? Like that's insane.
And who is it? Who is it that chairs the Human Rights Council? Isn't it?
I think it was Syria.
Like Saudi Arabia or Syria or somebody like that.
Yeah. No, we're not getting into UN. Today.
No, we're not getting But
we actually had a really good segue, and then we.
I know.
Got away.
Because I wanted to kind of just. Again, shout out to the people who are watching the show.
Yeah, if you're watching live on anybody's channel, anyone's watch party, anything like that, and you want to comment in, we read them on air and then we talk about them.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Now, Anibal's apparently been paying people to watch the show because there's a comment on here that says that Anibal is the best part of the show. And I don't know. I find that questionable.
I would absolutely question those sources. That's hearsay.
I'm going to launch an investigation into that.
First of all, we've changed the rules of whistleblowing automatically. Do you want my Venmo history to be able to go over those transactions?
Yes, we're going to need full transcripts.
Once my lawyer and the committee go through it and then redact what needs to get redacted, I will submit them for the committy's review. Hey, I've been preparing for that subpoena one day when I become
all right, so Hector was bringing up actually a good topic that maybe we can kind of work in because they're somewhat related, in terms of banning things, but an issue that we should definitely discuss, maybe not today, but certainly maybe next week, is the proposed resolution here in the city of Tampa to ban assault rifles.
When did that happen?
This was proposed last week.
It was he said he was going. Okay, so
wait, to give some background, I don't even know about
who
this.
is the council member, the city council member? Vieira.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which actually, Lewis would probably come on this show.
I was actually going to say he actually messaged us just a few days ago to talk with us.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's
if
get it. Let's get him on the show.
I would say let's get him on the show to be able to talk further into what he's requesting.
Yeah.
The 3 people and 4 with Cassie, she had to exit early.
Yeah.
Are all Tampa City residents. We all live within the districts. I feel that this is something that should be discussed. If you're gonna go if you're gonna go for this and you're gonna have people vote on it, then do the whole thing. Don't do a resolution of some kind. Yeah.
So
don't waste taxpayers' time and council members' time, because I think there was a city council meeting that lasted all day. So there's a lot of things going on.
Do you guys want
Your budget is over $1 billion. We don't have time for you talking.
Do you guys want to shelf that one till maybe we can try and get Lewis on here?
Yeah, let's try to get Lewis on for next week, and because the thing with the resolution is that it basically twists everybody's arm into getting behind it. That way, when elections come around, you can't just point the finger at one person and say, "Hey, this is this guy's fault."
Yeah, so then
that's at least my opinion on doing a resolution versus passing it as an ordinance or a ban.
So I think again, then that would move us to another ban within the city of Tampa being proposed that we were going to talk about. I guess it's the state. Well, it's the state, but it's coming from one of our local Tampa representatives. So. There's a vaping ban, is what we're calling it.
It's not called a vaping ban.
What are we calling it?
That's what I'm calling it.
It's not a vaping ban. Please, fake news.
Okay. What are we calling it?
I don't know what we're calling it, but I know it's not a vaping ban. To say vaping ban, that means to get rid of it's like, a cigarette ban.
Ban on THC cartridges. What do you want to call it?
I think I think it's providing the required regulation on something that has been introduced into the etho that needs to get tailed back a little bit. I have to read the full verbiage of what Jackie Toledo is proposing and what she'll be spearheading, I think, this coming session.
Yeah.
But from what
it's already banned indoors. I mean, you can't vape indoors.
That's what I was going to say. We've already started. Okay, so vaping went.
But the concern is
vaping went everywhere, and that everyone was doing it, and now we need to rein it in a little bit because, again, there are certain things that you have to rein in.
They're upset about it getting in the hands of kids under 18 because of the flavoring. And then they're upset about the, basically knockoff cartridges coming from China and who else knows where. And there's a couple, 6 kids that have died from doing this around the country or something like that. And so we're
only now being verified. Remember, it was one.
It's like halfway
2 weeks
verified,
ago, and now it's increasing because now they're starting to be able to push that they're. But I'm not saying that people are dying from vaping. What I am saying.
By the way, let's also make this clear. It's not the same. Like you have your Juuls, your vape. Like this is nicotine, and then you have your vape pens, which have a concentrate of marijuana in it, which is two totally different things. But that's why this is it bugs me, like the whole taking out the time to ban something like this, because
I think you're using the word ban incorrectly though.
Okay, well then to regulate it down, but
they are trying to ban certain parts of. They are trying to ban certain types, I guess, of these vaping either machines or flavors
because they're trying to market to children. I mean, we have rules and regulations.
But that's always been the case with the tobacco industry.
And what have we done to the tobacco industry? We've made sure that we provide the limitations for them not to be able to do certain things that promote smoking to children.
Well, but my point is that I think we're at a day and age where everybody knows that smoking is bad for you. Unfortunately, a lot of states and our federal government have relied on the taxation of the tobacco industry to fund programs and to fund various aspects of our budget. And I think they need to just do away with cigarettes altogether, any type of smoking.
I'm gonna push back hard on you, Johnny, because what I'm gonna say, what my philosophy on this is that as soon as you ban something, it is now cool. It is now something that people want to do. It is now taboo.
Hence why they're not banning.
And okay, but let's talk about it. I mean, let's talk about the regulations that when you put something like that on this industry, then people are going to want to do it. Kids are going to want to do it. We're the only as soon as you ban something as a country, it makes people want to do it because they're going to do it anyway, and they're going to find somewhere to do it. And then so again, now that's what ends up happening is that now we have all these states, I don't know how many states, let's call it 40, I'm going to guess, that have not legalized marijuana in any sort of way. But then they see the other 10 states that are pretty largely populated, and they're allowed to smoke marijuana recreationally or medically or something like that. So their friends or people they know that live in these states, they see this and they go, well, I'm just going to buy it online because it's the internet and I should be able to do that. And then so what ends up happening? Then you go to a website and then it's not in America. It's somewhere else in the rest of the world. And the FDA is not regulating it. They're not taking a look at it. The states aren't regulating it. And so, again, the same argument with marijuana that I have personally is that if you allow it, then you can figure out what's in it. And you have to have an ingredient list. And you're not going to have weird chemicals getting thrown in there because and kids dying off of it, you're going to have a normal functioning market. The same thing you're seeing in 10 to 15 other states right now. And so that's why I feel like we're moving in the wrong direction with this type of thing. I think it's okay to put the same burdens on the vape companies as they are with the cigarettes. With you can't have flavoring and whatnot, everything. I'll see there, even though I don't necessarily agree. But what this ends up doing, though, is this is something that Big Tobacco really wants, though, because they're losing a lot. Like R.J. Reynolds, Altria, old Philip Morris, like they are getting their like margins cut into by products like Juul. I think they bought them at some point because how popular it is outside of the products that they've put out, because the products they put out haven't been as good. But they also have a lot of regulations on them. So I guess where I'm going was that, like, when I see this type of legislation being introduced at a state level, I think it's the wrong move because you're just going to push people into the black market.
I don't think it's the wrong move. I don't think we should be. I don't think flavors like bubblegum delicious and cherry pop should be something that is, and the coloring and the marketing and everything else is blatantly going after children to increase the margins, to increase these kids getting onto that. I think it's something that needs to be tailored down. Now the verbiage that whatever the legislation is going to look like when Jackie Toledo issues it and actually puts it in, the verbiage is very important. And again, we're talking about something, and we've used the word ban a lot. I'm almost positive there's no verbiage in there that says we are banning Juul. We are banning vaping.
They're not.
That's the verbiage.
But is it not? I think one of the big parts of the proposal that she wants to make it raise the age of 21.
Why? Okay, so what is the age right now to buy cigarettes?
Hold on, because this is the absurdity of the whole thing. No, wait. This is the absurdity of the whole thing. Is that a state legislature, has very little room here to legislate on any of this because most of it comes from the federal government. Now, you can do it here in Florida, but guess what? If you're living in Jacksonville, if you're living in Tallahassee, anywhere along the Panhandle, guess what? You're just going to go north to the next state and you're going to buy it anyways. And to your point, like obviously I was taking it to the point of absurdity in terms of banning all tobacco, but the truth of the matter is that kids are going to have access to this, if they really want it. And the truth is that it's never been easier to buy stuff that you're not supposed to be buying.
That's a horrible
because of
argument.
the internet.
But it's a horrible argument. If you want to make meth, you can easily do it. It's not. It's actually very easy to do.
Chemistry.
It's very easy.
It is much easier for me to go.
I was literally sitting in a car. We had to. You did not go with me. I'm literally driving in a car with a sheriff deputy in a county that I will not discuss, and they were able to easily explain to me how you make meth just by certain doctors.
And by the end of this show, I could have sent Bitcoin to the Netherlands and probably ordered some sort of drug from here.
That's fine. If you want to waste your money like in Bitcoin, that's perfectly fine. It's just not a legitimate currency.
I'm trying to make the point that's how easy it is. It's not complicated.
I'm not saying.
But you don't think the kids?
If you want to get it, you can go get it.
But none of this would happen if there was a storefront that you could walk into and buy your medical marijuana.
You almost said meth.
Ban it or regulate it.
I didn't.
Ban it or regulate it all you want. The truth of the matter is that kids have access to their parents' Amazon accounts now, and if they want to order these vaping pens, if they want to order these flavors and all that kind of stuff, they're going to do it, and they're going to have it sent somewhere where they can pick it up. Like, the kids are far more clever than their parents are these days, and no regulation is going to stop that from happening, other than the awareness of the fact that it's going to kill you if you are a young adult.
But it's the same argument when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to
and it hasn't stopped kids from doing it. And it hasn't stopped kids from smoking.
We have to have a standard. I don't agree with the 18 to 21. I just don't see it's going to happen. If anything, I feel that it all should go down, because if you can if you can vote and you can shoot a gun in the army, then you should be able to smoke and drink at the same and as much as you want.
I mean, like, if you're asking,
and that's a whole nother conversation that we need to get into.
Maybe
so again, I don't agree with them trying to manipulate the age. That might actually be a federal situation, because I know the reason why alcohol is drank at a certain age is because if you want highway,
some studies.
if you
Oh,
want
why it
highway
actually went
dollars,
through, yeah.
then you have to have it at 21.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why the federal government has it that way, and that's why states require it to be 21. But let's not be ignorant in the fact that they should not be marketing. There shouldn't be any kind of things in regards to focusing on
they're
children.
not putting it on Saturday morning cartoons.
They don't do
Well, they're not allowed
any.
to
No
do
one
that.
The
watch
flavors,
Saturday
just
morning
because
cartoons.
it's flavored doesn't mean that it's directed at
but
children.
you're saying that it needs to hit that bar that they're advertising on Saturday morning cartoons.
No,
They're
but
not
then
allowed to.
you're
There's
going to
no
tell me that
tobacco
adults.
products.
You're going to tell me that adults don't want these flavored products just as much as kids would.
Well,
There's
so
a reason why we have such large warning labels. Again, you're saying that just knowing that cigarettes are going to kill you should deter people to be smoking. There's skulls and like warning signs on cigarettes now that are half of the advertising. People still smoke.
Well, and so let's go over things you can't do. You can't advertise on TV. You can't advertise on the internet. You can't do it on Amazon. You can't do it on Google. You can't do it on Facebook. So the only way that kids are finding this stuff, and getting influence, is going into a store and looking at a blank package that says mango, and that's all. And that's what's influencing them. So don't tell me that we're marketing to kids or anything like that. I mean, it's not like we're
Those
going
are cigarettes and other things. However,
cigarettes can't. No, but you're
That's like
vaping.
saying that flavored vodka is going to cause
the
kids to drink
vaping
more.
and everything else
exactly
is
some
definitely
argument.
being advertised to be shiny and looking nice, and for them to increase it. Now, am I saying that they're targeting children? No, but what I am saying that this new industry, this new thing that's come out, is pushed to the limits of what it is right now.
Do you guys think,
and we're going to need to rail it back a little.
Do you guys think that we should have those warning labels that they have in Europe and everything, where there's
Like a dead person,
the dead
literally.
people and in the health problems and stuff like that, like plaster
I don't
on
think
the
that
front of
does
it?
anything. Honestly, I don't think that does anything.
In America,
and the
I
truth
think
of
it
the
does
matter
nothing.
is that smoking in general is on the decline. Now, I don't know with vaping being a new component. I don't know if that's changing, but smoking in general is on decline. And nowadays, it's weird when you walk into a place that allows smoking. That's how part of a subculture now is to still be a smoker these days. But the simple fact is that just like with the plastic straws getting banned because some little girl, found a turtle with a straw up its nose, we're looking at the fact that there's probably been a couple dozen kids that have, gone to the hospital because of the vaping, and now there's going to be an overreaction as to how this should be regulated.
And again, you have lawmakers who probably don't understand the culture too, right? Because even as we're talking about it, when you say the word vape, everyone probably thinks of something a little bit different. Like you're talking about, there's they've got the ones that you actually fill yourself, and then you've got different concentrates, and then you've got the ones that come prepackaged, and then it's not like you can just be again, so simple as saying on the screen, vaping ban. That's so broad in the sense of an entire market. So they're not going to get into the weeds and try and figure it out.
Again, we're using the word wrong. Take off ban. That's not true. We're not banning anything.
You were prohibiting certain types of products.
And
that's the
banning
same
are two
thing.
different-
You were banning certain types of
This
products
is
from
fake
entering the
news.
market.
This is fake news. No one is banning vaping. No one's banning it. No one's banning cigarettes.
They're going to come for our vape pens the same way they're going to come for our guns. Anibal, I can't believe that we're sitting here having this argument. And you guys, if they were doing the same regulation on all the guns, we'd be freaking out. But we're trying to, but now we're going to defend the one with
because
the
vaping is an amendment that we're given. This coming from the person that wants to manipulate gas prices for the benefit of others.
I asked for the free market to take place, which is the same thing I'm asking for here, by the way. And
we talked about manipulating.
By the way, we are
gas
definitely.
prices.
I have a meme that says "Come and take it" with the jewel. We're definitely posting that after this. So
you should have sent it to me. I would have thrown it up
I
on
need
the
to
screen.
do it. We're not prepared.
When did vaping rise to the level of arms?
Yeah, look, the truth is most of the people who have transitioned from cigarettes to vaping are people who are trying to quit. And so, again, I think, you get this rash of incidents that happen, and all of a sudden people want to overreact, right?
Let's
again,
see where the science goes.
as big a tragedy as Parkland was, right? The legislature felt forced to react because of public opinion after such an immense tragedy. But really, is what's being implemented doing any good to prevent something like that from happening again? And I'd say even that is questionable. It's arguable whether or not you can prevent a Parkland from happening at all.
So the Constitution and Bill of Rights does not guarantee your right to vape.
I'm gonna go dig through it later on and see if I can find the word.
The Constitution.
And see if I can find the word smoke. Like you could, maybe they can filter it in there somewhere. We'll see.
Oh my
This
gosh.
went really a weird way.
This is what happens. We lose track a little bit sometimes. But you know what? I think one of the things we're going to start adding onto our show, though, after some great suggestions from the audience, which we do listen to, is we're going to start adding timestamps. And then that way you
Yeah,
don't
we
have
did
to,
to last week's show.
Yeah, and you don't have to listen through our entire nonsense if you want to only hear one part of the show.
Well, what I say is not nonsense, so you can do whatever you want. But I do feel that as time progresses and as this show continues, I do feel that we're going to start moving into that part where it needs to be weekly. These things are coming up so often.
We're trying to go weekly. We are trying to go weekly.
And
guys.
things are definitely starting to come up that as this election cycle runs, people want to hear the opinions of our generation and people in our positions and our political persuasion.
What's
and
the age range of people you want to hear opinions from?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but
35.
next week I'm bringing in some. Next week I'm bringing in some 16yearolds. I mean, because apparently
Ooh, that's on record.
the hot market.
Too soon.
I'm gonna go home and clip that for the clip, and that's all we're gonna run.
That's going to be subpoenaed 30 years from now. But I do like even and we've had these conversations with Democrats, independents, and even anarchists that once you start talking to them, it's nowhere near as extreme as the media and as the pundits on TV really do describe it. That we can find middle ground.
I actually do have a wider question though.
Yeah.
Like I'll let you finish if you wanted to say anything.
Well, what I was going to say is if we wanted to, the environmental conversation is something that we all agree on. We just agree on different paths to get to it.
Sure.
I want to be completely energy independent, green. We're not doing that, but for the economic benefits of it, for the individual household, reducing those prices. Whereas others want to do it for the entire planet and be able to. That's
why I didn't criticize Greta's speech. I mean, yeah, again, it's coming from a 16-year-old. There's certainly holes that you could go after, in terms of the things that she said. I think a lot of her passion comes from the fact that she's been misinformed. You tell a 16-year-old that if dramatic changes don't happen, that the world is going to end, in the next 12 years, that the world's going to end, possibly in their lifetime. And yeah, to me, that is psychological abuse.
Well,
If that was the case, the Obamas would not have bought lakeshore property or ocean property in the Hamptons. If that was a real thing,
The Hamptons?
I don't know. It's
I think
some
it was like
foofy
Nantucket
place.
Martha's
area or
Vineyard?
something. Martha's Vineyard.
It's that
that's where
country
it was.
off the coast of the United States.
But what I was going to ask you guys, though, because this is actually a genuine question, I'd be curious to get your opinion. So, I mean, we're the Tampa Young Republicans. Our age range is from 18 to 40 years old.
Yes.
And so that means that you can, you can become a member if you're 18 years old, by the way, if you're listening. So, 2 years later from
40.
or 40
or in spirit after 40.
Yeah, or in spirit after 40. But genuinely, so this girl's 16. 2 years later, I mean, again, there's differences between 2 years, and legally and whatnot. So my question to you guys is that we faced it. Jonny, you faced it.
Yeah.
You're too young to give your opinion on this. You're too young to lead. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't have enough experience. I feel like that's a constant criticism that we receive. So at what age is it appropriate?
The difference is that she did it on a global stage. All right, it's not that she went to a county commission meeting or a city council meeting, or she's just being active in her community. It's the fact that she went on a global stage, and it's everything that comes with that.
Well,
what's happening right now, the scrutiny, the criticism that's coming down on someone who's still in the biggest part maybe of their development.
Well, you know what? If the UN would let me come on and rant at one of their meetings at 28, I would absolutely do it. If they would have asked me at 21.
You can handle it at 28.
But at 21, I would have done it, and at 18, I would have done it too.
I just need them to pay their parking tickets. That's all I need the UN diplomats to do. Need them to pay their parking tickets and not make Park Avenue into a parking lot. You can't even go shopping during that time of the year when they're all there. It is impossible to get to Bloomingdale's.
All right. I don't know why you're going to Bloomingdale's.
They have a really good restaurant.
Oh,
the
jeez.
downstairs lobby.
All right. Look,
But no, what I will say is this: so in regards to young people, and people talking about that in our generation,
Yeah.
But that also happened when they were our age.
I know, of
and that
course.
happened even before then.
That's why I don't
There
wanna do
is-
that to people.
Yes, there is a time. And don't get me wrong. I think what we did with discussing her, we had our fun, but then we went into what was the meat of the topic
Yeah,
that
sure,
she's talking to,
sure.
and we had that conversation. We did not focus on much about her herself, because at the end of the day, we're talking about the environment. We're not talking about her, and that's what we should be doing. And those are the conversations we should be having. As a young person, I've been involved in politics for a very long time, from student government to even before then. And you start to learn how to lead within your peers before you're able to lead others outside of that group. And that's what happens when you're in your 20s. No one's expecting you to run a city or run a nation.
But I
That's
think
not
that-
possible.
I
And
think
even
that-
within even our sorry for cutting you off.
No, it's
Even
fine.
our forefathers knew you couldn't become president until 35. They had to, one, you had to outlive to that point, and two, you had to have that kind of life. You
But
had
that's
to
president.
grow.
We're not talking. That's the president of the United States. That is a totally different position than, again, a governor, a state representative, somebody who speaks at the UN. I mean, those are totally different things. So I mean, again, I'm fine with a 35-year-old limit, but I guess. When we start looking at it, it starts to be like, I don't know, there's a maturity level. There are not all 21-year-olds are made the same. Not 18 or 16-year-olds are either. And so I guess it's just like from my end, I know that we complain about it when people are saying that you're too young to do this. I don't want to put that on someone if they're willing to go out there and put themselves in front of the UN.
Yeah.
Well,
Again, we're also talking about the UN here. This is a platform that's allowed people that deny the
you started.
Holocaust,
Do not get me started.
that deny that
You're gonna go there. You're gonna get Jake all worked out.
This is the best one that they've allowed people speak on that platform that deny that gay people exist in their countries. That is a platform that denies women the right to do anything. This is why I'm saying the UN has turned into a perversion of what it was supposed to be originally. You just need to get back to just figuring out how to feed people and distribute medicine, because you're doing absolutely nothing when your peacekeepers have no bullets in their weapons and allow for genocide. The whole purpose of the point of the UN was for that not to happen, and the UN has turned into a puppet where people can just do whatever they want and not pay their parking tickets.
Well, speaking of which, actually, just a quick touch on that. One of the things that, again, the media wasn't going to point out, but President Trump actually had a great part of his speech where he talked about the hypocrisy among these nations and how they treat the LGBTQ community in these countries around the world, persecuting them, not giving them their rights, and I thought it was incredibly powerful, again, for the president to come out, like other presidents have done before him, but, for him to come out and say that, and again, the media just completely just ignored it, because obviously it doesn't fit their overall agenda about what a horrible human being he is.
Yeah.
I love I used to love the UN and the concept of the UN and all that it represents, and now it's nothing but a perversion bit of itself.
And they're anti-Semitic, but I won't even
Completely.
expand
How
upon
many?
that
How
in
many
the amount of
votes?
time that we have left.
How many votes have? No, let's go there. How many votes have they done where they just
brother.
alienated
I-
Israel
I'd
and not
rather-
the rest of the countries
I'd
around
rather
the world?
come back with the numbers because it's insane.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring this ship home.
I want to be a part of the next voyage to Israel. By the way, I haven't visited the
do
Holy
you?
Land in a while. I do. I haven't visited in a while.
Anyways, all right.
What is it
So
called?
let's run through some of these comments here on our Facebook feed, and again, thank you to everybody for watching. We'll be back again next
And my
Monday.
Israeli bonds.
We're gonna try to see if we can get Councilman Luis Vieira to come on and talk about his proposal to get the city of Tampa to ban assault rifles. But Joe
Resolution.
Wicker mentions and talking about vaping and bans and all that sort of thing. Is consider this irony. The government gave me made him a driver of an Abrams tank in Iraq. They gave him a driver of his Abrams tank who was 19 years old. I mean, the guy, they put a 19-year-old to drive an Abrams tank.
But you can't distinguish between a jewel and a mango jewel.
Have you seen?
where we're at. That's
They
where we're at,
can't.
guys.
They can't distinguish between.
This is a
I'm
slippery
more of a-
slope argument.
I'm more of a
They
strawberry
can't
jewel kind of
They
guy.
cannot distinguish between a jewel flavor and a Tide Pod, but yet we're still allowing these people to do it.
Tide Pods are dangerous,
Yes, Tide Pods are very dangerous.
but they're a lot of fun. To, throw.
He also
Here-
says, Anibal, no one is coming for your vape pens. We just want common sense vaping control.
I agree.
exactly.
That's my point.
That's my point.
No. You're two were the banning people.
No,
I just
what?
want legitimate
You didn't
regulation.
listen to me at all.
I never listened to you.
No.
Clearly.
Anyways, and to answer Hector's comment, because he says, especially in the case of Greta Thunberg having Asperger's, I'd say that's aggravated abuse. I agree.
Yeah.
I think they are taking advantage of her condition. It is well documented, and she has also said publicly in an interview with NBC that part of her passion, part of her obsession with this particular topic is one of the conditions, one of the behavioral aspects of Asperger's. And then Hector also says that the UN is anti-Semitic, anti-Western, let alone anti-U.S. And I think we'd all agree on that, right?
Yeah, so I think that's a great thing to close on. So why don't we? I agree, but why don't we close off then? Because I think we probably hit our hour now.
Yes.
Again, if you were out at the Florida Federation of Young Republicans quarterly this weekend, thank you absolutely
Thank
for
you so
supporting
much.
the Tampa Bay Young Republicans, supporting our organization. Our members are growing. I mean, people think that, and I talked about this that night at dinner, is that people think that our generation is just full of a bunch of socialist liberals, and we've got no idea what we're doing. But there is a growing movement of what I consider pretty intelligent, moderate, smart conservatives that are out here joining groups like this and trying to make sure that we don't put our country in the complete wrong direction, like many of them are trying to take us. And so, if you want to get involved, please get more involved. Come out to our meetings. We do them once a month. Tampa Bay Young Republicans. We're doing this also live streamed on the Florida Federation of Young Republicans. There's probably a group in your county, or if there's not, you can actually start one. And then again, I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors.
So thank you to Debbie Tamargo with the ROI Real Estate Company giving their donations. Thank you for the Tampa Trump.
Patriots for Trump
with Terry. Thank you all, a majority of the North Hillsborough County Republican Club, the DeBoers, they're awesome. A few others from that group that I cannot think of their names right now, but they are those Republicans that really give us a kind of glimpse into what we should be doing when we get a little bit more seasoned.
Yeah.
And investing in young Republicans, investing in those organizations.
And if you're watching this and you do want to sponsor what we're doing a little bit more as well, again, we have the Grammatica Family Kickball Tournament coming up this Saturday. It's going to be 8:30 to 6. And if you want to come out and watch it, it's going to be a great event. I mean, it's basically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers essentially are going to all be out there. It's at MacDill Air Force Base. It's going to be food. It's going to be fun. Everybody dresses up in costumes and plays kickball. It is going to raise a lot of money for disabled veterans and getting custom homes for disabled veterans. And they've been doing it for about 7 or 8 years now. We are entering a team. So also, if you want to play, I think we probably need a couple more girls. We have to have a minimum of girls on there as well. But we do have probably a couple spots on the roster. And again, we are going to be doing a donation to them as well. So any donated funds from this quarterly that last weekend or anything that's coming up now will be going to them. We're not taking it home, and we don't make any salary.
No,
from this,
and also those members that are watching right now, we will be keeping you guys informed of what's happening on the state level in regards to meetings and events and socials and quarterlies. They're a lot of fun. You get to meet like-minded individuals from around the state. You build that network and group of friends. And again, Jonny and I have been a part of this organization for a while now, and the group of people and network that we know has definitely benefited us in our careers and in our aspirations politically.
And then the last thing I'll say is that
my goodness,
Amy Stone went ahead and she was friend of the show. She was on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
She did win best dressed while we were there. So
awesome.
I will give her a shout out on the podcast.
It's like a flag themed dress or something.
It was a flag
theme.
Yeah.
All right, enough plugging over there. Speaking of plugs, we're hoping to make this program. A great vehicle, to inform people and certainly get people not only informed but educated on what's going to be happening with the upcoming elections nationally, statewide, and locally. And so if you'd like to support this program, reach out to us via Facebook. You can message us through there, and I'll certainly be happy to respond. Again, if you have a business product that would like to support this program, or if you're a candidate that would like to put themselves in front of our audience, please reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. And again, every bit of support is going to put us closer to winning these upcoming elections. So thank you so much on behalf of Anibal, Cassie, Jake, are you guys whispering over here? Don't forget the mics are still on.
Yeah, we're talking over here. But yeah, no.
Inspiring.
No,
I was just gonna say, if you are a candidate, come and defend your positions on our podcast.
Yes.
That's all. That's all I have to
we'll
say.
be very
Or
gentle.
elected official.
Exactly.
We won't be gentle.
Thank you again for
We'll be
watching.
fair.
Again, you can find this on our Facebook page. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Look for the yard sign on social media. And, of course, thanks to the Tampa Bay Young Republicans for being a part of the show. We will see you next week. So long, everybody.
Thank you and good night.